So our service today is, I'm going to give you just a few little facts about the Declaration of Independence that you may not know, which I find very interesting, and I think they should have been in our school books. But after that, we've passed out cards and pens to everybody, and we're going to do a Stump the Minister Day. So if you have a question about unity, about spirituality versus religion, if there's something that you would like answered, put it on the card, and we will pick it up, and I will answer. So, what are we looking for?
Close up. I can't do it. It's gonna have to stay like that.
Okay. So the Declaration of Independence was written in 1787, ratified in 1788, and in operation since 1789. It's the longest surviving written charter of government. And the first three words are "we the people." We the people affirm that the government of the United States exists to serve its citizens, all of the citizens. I added the all. Well, it's not highlighted much in the past, telling of the founding of our nation, but there is some truth that has not been told. An Iroquois Indian and his nation played a very important role in the framing of our Constitution. It was the Iroquois chief, let me try to do this right, Kennesago, that went to the colonies to present the idea of a national or a centralized governance that is one of the founding principles that we have adopted, and it is our democratic form of government. So the Indians told the colonists how to form a peaceful nation. And the founding fathers accepted it and formed a committee to write the framework, and they asked Thomas Jefferson to write the framework for it, and he wrote these words. It's both in the preamble and in the body of this document. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our future generations, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. And then this appeal is made. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So folks, I'm bringing this to our attention and our consciousness because right now we're being told a lot of things that kind of take us off our track, I think. But we always have to remember that this nation is founded on principles that all people, not some people, but all people, are created equally, and all are given rights by the Creator, not by a government and not by a human being. God created that freedom in us as part of our soul. People everywhere will fight for their freedom because it's part of who they are created to be. No one can rightfully take that from you or from anyone else. We have the right to exist freely and to be. The great presence of the universe has created you and me and all of us to be unique and whole and powerful. So we want to remember that everyone has the right to exist and to pursue their dreams and to be passionate about their life and to be free to be light and love. As individuals and as a nation, we're constantly evolving. We're becoming more inclusive of the good and the love and the hope, though it doesn't always appear that way. And we have to always remember that life was meant to be good, not just for some of us, but for all of us. It doesn't matter. This rises above any kind of political party. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or whether you're a Republican or whether you're a liberal or whether you're an independent. It doesn't matter. We live in a very privileged country here in the USA. And this has been given to us over time by all these different parties. And we need to remember that. We also need to remember that no matter what happens, no one has the right to interfere with our liberty, our freedom, because we are all equal, created to be free by the same Creator. I love this truth, I bless this truth, and I bring this truth to everyone's attention as we move through these rocky times that are always rocky. We've been through these rocky times before. Think of Lincoln and some of the people in the past. We have to remember to be grounded in what we know to be true. And we have to live from what we know to be true. So, today is the day to celebrate that. Today is the day to stay aware of that and to make a pledge and a vow that we won't forget it as we move through these rocky times that we're going through now. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to ask you for any questions that you have to please put it on the cards that we sent out, and I'll have Barbara pick them up, and we'll see what we can do about answering some of your unanswered questions about unity, about spirituality, about the Bible, about metaphysics, whatever it is, that something you've been wanting to know about. You just let me know, and that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully we can get all your questions answered. Anybody, once you're ready, once you've got your question on the card, just raise your hand and either Barbara and I will pick it up. Chris, are you ready? Okay, I'll grab yours. Thank you, sir. And thank you for doing this for us. Janelle, are you ready, darling? Take your two and we'll talk about those while everybody else is getting ready. Thank you. So there's a fly that came to church this morning.
Yeah.
And he really is latching on to me. Okay, so the first question I have is, what does unity seek to change in the world? Well, boy, I could probably talk about that for a week. It's pretty much what I've been talking about already. There's always the temptation for people to live from their humanity and not from their spirituality. And unity is about recognizing, being aware of, and living from your spirituality. It's that higher plane. When we're humans, we can see right and wrong in people. We can be prejudiced against people. We can allow ourselves to fall into a desire for power. That's the human in us all. That's happening a lot in our world right now. So if unity is about, and has always been about, teaching us spirituality, teaching us to take the high road, to take the spiritual path to what is good and right for all people. And we have chosen as a movement to mostly model after what we call our master teacher and way shower, Jesus Christ. We believe, and of course Buddha was, and the Hindus had many of the good traits as well, but we have chosen to follow the teachings of Jesus the Christ because he always did what he taught. He taught us by example. He didn't just say, love the leper. He ate with the lepers. He made sure the lepers were taken care of. He didn't just say, don't eat meat on Friday. He said, do as you have been taught to do. And he was always being the model for taking the high road, for doing the right thing. And of course, that's a whole nother story about the meat and the shellfish and all of that. That was all part of how they needed to be well and healthy. And of course, it came from the church because the church was really the rule. They were kind of the last word. So, to sum it up, unity wants to change the way we treat one another, the way we look at one another, the way that we prejudice against color or religion or race or whatever we may be prejudiced against. And remember that Jesus was never prejudiced against anyone at any time, and he lived it. He didn't just teach it, he lived it. So he's our master way shower, and that is what unity is always striving to do. And thank you for that. That was a great question. The next question I have, thank you, honey, is why would God let bad things happen to children? Why doesn't God stop bad things from happening to young children? That was a big question for me because my son was born and not expected to live, and that was a big question because I was at Texas Children's Hospital, and it was 3 stories at that time of all children who were not expected to live. That was a big question for me for many years. But what I came to realize is that God's not a guy in the sky. God does not rain down on us the good and the bad. God does not pick you or me or small children. And so first of all, we have to move higher than thinking that God's a guy in the sky that picks on or doesn't pick on or should or shouldn't. That is a God that we have outgrown, and you've heard me say this before, that's a 2,000-year-old God. And what do we think about today that we thought about 2,000 years ago? We don't eat the same thing, we don't travel the same way, we don't have the same the same thought system. And yet we're still having that same thought system about God being a separate entity that can rain havoc over us if that God chooses to do so. So we have to move higher than that as who and what God is. And we have to realize that every human being born has a soul, and that every soul came here for a purpose. And we don't understand it always, but even children who are born and something bad happens to them, their soul had a part in that. And I know that sounds harsh, but think about all the many times that a child was born and either died or had something that was dreadfully wrong and it was somehow cured. Those kinds of things could be, we don't know, because there's still mysteries in the world. Somebody says to you they know it all, run around, turn around and run, because none of us know it all. A lot of life is a mystery. But you can look at some of those things. You can look at a child who maybe was born with something that there was no cure for, but during the time that child was on the earth, that child's malady or whatever it was responsible for finding a cure. That happened to my son. There were 2 times that my son, not expected to live, ended up being kind of an experiment and having them learn how to keep babies like him alive. And so to me, that kind of answered it for me. I don't think anyone does this consciously, but I think spirit and soul at the soul level, we decide to incarnate in this life to learn certain lessons. And every challenge that we have is a lesson that we came to learn. Once we get that lesson learned, the lesson goes away. Does that help at all? I mean,
I was thinking more like, kids being murdered or that kind of thing, going through violence.
Yeah. Well, and
Existence
that's
in a short time, but yes.
Yeah, and there may have been a purpose for that as well.
Right.
That may have been karma. Karma's another whole thing that we could spend a couple of weeks on. And some of this stuff, some of this stuff is not in our conscious humanness. But when we move to a higher level of understanding about our soul and spirit, we begin to have some understanding of some of those things. And I'd be happy to talk to you about that more. What is the Unity guidance on transgression and forgiveness? Well, first of all, forgiveness is never about the other person. Never about the other person. Forgiveness is always to set you free. It is giving back to you that for which was taken from you. So forgiveness is always about you rising above what happened, looking for the way to set yourself free because you are in bondage to that person that you don't set free. And there are some horrible things that you don't want to forgive. I understand that. I understand. Forgiving that other person never means they're right, never means you have to condone what they did, never means you have to see them again, never means any of those things. It means allowing yourself to let go of the part of you that is tormented and that will actually make you physically ill. So forgiveness is always about you, not the other person. The transgression is somebody who is not very highly spiritually aware, and they do things to other people that they're unaware they shouldn't do. They're acting out of their humanness, not out of their higher spirit. Does that help? Good questions, everybody. All right, when we see so much suffering in the world, in our nation, and even right in front of us, how do we discern where to place our attention for healing? You place your attention for healing through positive prayer. What we teach in this church is positive prayer. When you say a prayer, you use all positive words and you use them in the now moment. So if I am wanting to heal myself, someone in my church, someone in my town, the world, I use positive words and positive thoughts. Because remember the quantum field. I'm going to put it out into the quantum field and I'm going to get back exactly what my thoughts were. Your thoughts are magnetic. They go out and they magnetize and they bring back to you exactly what you were thinking. Now that can be in 100 different ways because it's an energetic vibration. But you have to remember that if you want to heal anything, you do it with positive prayer. And positive prayers don't take a long time. They can be 3 sentences. But you do them in the present tense, as though it's already happened, because in the invisible, it already has. And you make sure you use, not only do you use in the now language, but you use every word positively, no negative words. Because all of that positivity, no matter what you're trying to heal, goes out into that quantum field and comes back to you just as you said it. Now I'm going to say one more thing about that. There are occasions where people are ready to go. We don't have control over someone else who has chosen this time to transition out of this lifetime. We don't have that control. Many, many times you can through your positive thinking. We do it all the time here in Unity. We pray positively for people and they get well. But when it happens that they don't, you have to know it's because their soul was ready to make that transition. Now, it's not that you didn't do it properly. It's that we have to let go because in truth, we don't have power. I don't have power over your decisions. I can pray for you from the highest place, and then I have to let that go because that person has his own soul's path. Does that help? Is there something else you would like to know about that, anybody? And we do teach how to do positive prayer here, and so we have a prayer class that teaches positive prayer. Okay. Where are the founding principles of unity? How are they lived out in our church today? Well, the 5 guiding principles are in our newsletter. They're there every week. 5 unity principles that we live by. There's only one God. There's only one power. That Jesus is the way shower and teacher and has taught us how to pray and has taught us how to live. And that the prayer we pray is positive. And we have choice in the world. And the last one is the first 4 principles have to be honored by taking action on them. We can't just say our 5 unity principles. We have to be able to actually take action. We have to put those principles into action in our life. And if somebody wants to pull up, I don't know what I did with my phone, if somebody wants to pull up the newsletter on their phone, I'll read the 5 unity principles to everybody. And they're in your newsletter. So, if somebody wants to do that, I think that might be a good idea to follow up. And I do not know what I did with my phone, so anyway, I would do that myself if I had to put it somewhere, but I don't know where. Oh, this is a really good one. How do you stay positive during these tough times? I don't always. I'm human just like you are. I strive to be aware. I strive to notice when I'm not being positive. I strive to notice when I'm not living from one of those principles or more of those principles. And I find that I'm human. And we're all human. We're all on this path to reach that higher level. So it's not about how often we come from our humanness, it's how often we stay there. So we want to notice when we are coming from a place of fear, because there's only two spectrums on our vibrations in the quantum field. The lowest vibration is fear, and the highest vibration is love. So we're always somewhere on that spectrum of fear and love. And the more human I am and the more human I stay, I have to see that where I am is in fear, some sort of fear, or something on that spectrum of fear. And to move myself back into that higher place. I give you a quick story. My son, first of all, my son really was never given any sort of prognosis about how long he would live, although he's 60 and he's still living, thank God. But when he was I was in ministerial school, and they rushed him to the hospital for heart surgery. Heart surgery had been what he'd had heart had been what he'd had his whole life. And so I got on the plane and I flew home, and I'm in ministerial school, so I'm holding all the high watch. I've got it all handled, you know. And I get to the hospital and I'm doing all the high watch with all my granddaughter and daughter-in-law and everybody around, and that 2-hour surgery went to 11 hours. Along about the 7th hour, I lost it. I couldn't be positive anymore. I began to find the fear creeping in. And I noticed it, but I was caught up in it. And so I picked up the phone and I called one of my students who was really a good teacher as well. And I called her and I said, can you come and hold the high watch? Because I can't do it anymore. She got in her car, she came over, she held the high watch for me and everybody else, and 11 hours later he was fine. So we all go there. The question is, do we stay there? And do we notice it? And do we take action? Again, the 5 principles, we need to take action. So this is a lifelong, when you get to Unity, this is a lifelong learning of how to always take the high road and not the humanness that we all are, and rise above it. Because when we rise above it, amazing miracles happen. All right. Do we ever talk about the Apocrypha in Unity? Well, we do, but what the Apocrypha is it's all the not all the books, it's 14 of the books that got left out of the Bible. And I talk about them because if you get the study book, it's called the New Oxford Annotated. Well, the annotations are all the Apocrypha. They're all of the books that are not in the Bible, that could have been in the Bible, and that are extremely interesting. They're actually more revealing to our own ability to follow the teachings of Jesus than what got into the Bible. And all of that was man-made, and all of that was political. But the Apocrypha is the books that are now in the annotated, they're in that Bible. I think we might have one of the Bibles back there, I'm not sure. But I can tell you where to buy them. But it's the new annotated Oxford. And it was like 200 ministers from around the world that went to Oxford University for many years to try and figure out what the Bible really said and what the Bible really meant, and they ended up looking at all the Bible books that didn't make it in, and they added those 14. Does that help? I don't know who asked that, but does that help? Yeah. We could do that probably for 14 weeks. I could use one of those books for the Bible every week. So y'all are giving me good ideas. And then the last one is, I don't know how we're doing for time, but this is the last one. Why are other religions deemed not as important as Christianity? Don't get me started. Christianity made it into the New Testament 100 years after Jesus died. 100 years after Jesus died. And then 375 years after that, the Greek and Roman Empire decided they wanted one religion, one government, one language, one library, and they decided to choose what they named Christianity. Before that, there'd been a lot of people who were followers of Jesus. They were called the Gnostics. They were called a lot of things, and they followed Jesus. But this Constantine wanted one. And so he narrowed it down to what he called Christianity. And then he was the one who appointed the Nicene Council, which was 72 Greek bishops from the Greek Orthodox Church to decide what Christianity looked like. That went into the Bible. All 52 books in the Bible were chosen in 3 days, one weekend, by the Nicene Council. And that became the law. Now, when you look at the Bible had, the Old Testament had some books written in Aramaic, some books written in Hebrew, and then along comes the New Testament, and they're all written in Greek. So that they are all focused on the Christianity model. Is that making sense? It's complicated, but that's what happened. And so Christianity was born. And all of the myths about Jesus was born at that time. And the myths came out of 375 years between the actual having Jesus walk the earth and what they decided that he should be portrayed as, so people would choose Christianity. Now, the Christianity part that Constantine wanted was because his mother, Helena, said she'd been to Jerusalem and walked the streets of Jerusalem and heard the myths about Jesus, even 375 years later. Because what he taught was love, and that doesn't ever die. But she went back and told her son, that's what I want for your one religion, is Christianity. Now, Christianity comes from the word Christos. That is a title given to Jesus. Jesus was his name. Christos was his title. And Christos was a title of someone who was, let's see how I'm going to say this. They were almost beyond reproach. They had all of the attributes of peace and love and joy and truth and honesty and more than that. And that's who Jesus represented. And so he was given the title of the Christos, which is where Christ or Christianity came from. Most people think, I don't know what they think about Christ, but Christ was something that was given him way after he died. It was a title. And it was actually a Latin word, Christos. So Christianity, all of that came from the Greek and the Latin. And then it's been handed down by the Catholic Church, by the Greek Orthodox Church. It's been the infallible law. But I personally think it falls short because it doesn't actually follow the teachings of Jesus. It follows a lot of the political that the church, in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th century, Catholics were more powerful than the kings. They ruled, not the kings. The kings couldn't do anything without the Catholic Pope telling them yes or no. So it was a political thing. And political simply means that we are in our humanness and we want some power. That's really all it means. And as humans, when we're not rising above who we are, we can do some ungodly things of the misuse of power. Does that help anyone? Say anything else you want about that before we close. Oh, excellent questions. Yes, Barbara?
No.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. So what we have strived to do, whatever the proper word of that is, what we are striving to do in the Unity Movement, and what the Unity Movement was founded on, was following the teachings of Jesus. And the teachings of Jesus were very simple. Love. Co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, said, "Only love heals, and love is the healing, harmonizing power on the planet." We're to follow love. And everywhere we look around in the world and we see something other than love for our fellow man, the Unity Movement wants that to change. It's very carefully, not something I can do in the pulpit every Sunday. I have to be very non-political. But when we see people treating other people unkindly, or we fall into that thinking it's an okay thing because someone in power is doing it, we're not living from that unity principle. That love is all there is, and that love is what heals. That's what unity is about. We're about spirituality, not about religious rules. Religions are built on rules. We talked about this a week or so ago. It's not about rules. It's about what's in your heart. It's about having yourself do to other people exactly what you would want those people to do to you at all times. And right now, we're a long way from that. But if each and every one of us, I still love this thing, Margaret Mead said, she was the woman who was she was the biologist, and she said that never think for one moment that 13 people can't change the world, because 13 people already have. And that is the 13 people who sat down to do the Declaration of Independence. So we've already changed the world with only 13 people. If we had 13 people in this room who were all committed to the very same thing, we could go out and change the world, at least our world. So, great questions, all. Feel complete? Mm-hmm. If you don't, let me know. Great questions. You might be able to take some of these questions and make 20-minute sermons out of them. How about that? you've given me some things to play from. All right, so let's go into a bit of a meditation and just allow ourselves to sort of think about not only this wonderful day that we call Independence Day, and bring that to mind and bring that to your mind, knowing how blessed we are to live in this country where we have freedom to worship, to go to school, and to marry, and all of those things that we choose. Just take in a breath or two and allow yourself to be totally present to your own life and how the freedoms of this country bless you. Bless me, bless Rockport, bless the world. See what that means for you. And see how you can move that out beyond yourself into those around you. Knowing that sometimes it's not popular, but if it's the truth always wins. So we always look, where in our life could we do things better and differently and uphold what we truly believe and uphold the principles that we come here to learn each Sunday. Just ask for that guidance and have that boldness and that courage to speak that truth and to live from that truth and those principles. Love is the answer to every challenge. Ask yourself, where can I today put this practice of love and forgiveness and joy and truth and peace, where can I put this into action in my life today? Where can I put it into action every day? It is who we were created to be. It is who all people were created to be. It is the tenets and the teachings and the principles of unity. And we strive to put them into practice in our daily lives, as we are constantly grateful and joyful for the freedoms that we enjoy and have enjoyed for the last 245 years. Live from that gratitude, always with thankfulness on your lips and in your heart. And so it is. Amen.